Hey family, welcome home. You are in the Inspired House. As always, I am your host, Desmond Davis. And family, it is good to see you. It's good to be with you. And y'all, we have a banger for you today. I am so excited to be able to introduce y'all to somebody who's been really impactful in my life, especially in my time here in Rochester. And y'all, we have none other than Dr. David Paul. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great.
My man.
Yeah.
Yo, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. Considering all the things that you do in surgery and everything else, to just take the time out to hop on the show is really just, it means a lot to us. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm excited to be on the podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure. So let's just get right into it. So sir, like you hold a lot of hats. You do a lot of things from surgery to business to, of course, also being a husband and a father and all that. You do so much. And so I would just love to just kind of hand the floor over to you. And so just in case if we have some audience members who may not be familiar with you yet, but once they learn you, I'm sure they're going to love you, just so that they can get to know you.
Yeah, so I'm David Paul, assistant professor of neurosurgery here at the University of Rochester. I'm the director of brain and spine trauma, which basically means I take care of some of our sickest patients that show up in the hospital. That's my subspecialty interest, that and complex deformity and scoliosis spine surgery. And then on the side, my wife and I were involved in a lot of entrepreneurial efforts. We own a local coffee company. We wholesale coffee to Whole Foods and to some institutions here in the city. And we also invest in real estate.
Wow. So saving lives, keeping the people who save lives caffeinated so that they can have the energy of what they need to do. Which also, by the way, shout out to Bold and Gritty. Coffee's amazing. That's free, by the way. You're welcome. And then kind of get into real estate. So when we think about kind of our audience and the people who are a part of the Inspired House family, a lot of them, they have, I would say, like a good ambition, and they have that desire to want to be effective. They have that desire to want to do good work. They have that desire to want to be impactful. And I guess for you, has that always been the case for you where you've been able to make impact in whatever you do? Or is that something that you kind of had to learn along the way? I guess I'm really asking kind of what was the journey for you?
Yeah, no, I think it was a mix of both. I was fortunate to grow up in a home with both parents and access to my grandparents and a loving community of faith that really pushed and supported me and encouraged me to just go after my dreams and goals. So I think that since I was young, I demonstrated an interest in various things. And because of the environment that I was in and because of the exposures I had, I was guided into sort of whatever it is that I decided to do to be the best at it, to be a leader. And I obsessed over everything it was that I was involved in, trying to learn the ins and outs of it, how to navigate, relationships and how to, make different projects, financially viable. And that excited me. I always wanted to understand how things work, the human body, technology, the toys that I was playing with, the computers that I had access to. And I think that just drove me to think about the world maybe in a little bit different way than other folks around me.
Okay, that checks out. So what I'm hearing then is that ability of curiosity kind of carried into so many, really kind of every aspect of life, it sounds like,
Yeah.
whether it was getting in the medical field or business or just life and hobbies. And so it sounds like kind of that curiosity muscle was well developed and has kind of been serving you. I guess for me then, when I think of the work that you've done, the conversations we've had like offline, having lunch and things, you've talked a little bit about when dealing with things like burnout. And as a neurosurgeon, as if I can be very transparent, as a Black man in America, and all of those pieces, those are a lot of pressures. And we talked about kind of the uniqueness of your answer in terms of burnout, but how actually real practical that is. And I think a lot of people don't know about it. So when I asked you about how you deal with burnout, you kind of gave me a unique answer. And I would love if maybe we can kind of just rehash that and kind of
Yeah.
go through that answer again.
Yeah, for sure. Burnout has definitely become one of these buzzwords in medicine. And, they do all these surveys, right, of specialties that have the highest burnout rate. And what is interesting is that neurosurgery as a specialty were probably some of the hardest working folks here in the
Mm.
hospital. And as a specialty, we have some of the lowest rates of burnout.
Hmm.
And you question and ask, why is it that a group of people who are obsessive over work, who you would think are significantly overworked,
Mm-hmm.
why is it that they have lower rates of burnout? And I think that there has to be a concordance with what you're called to do, what your passion is, and that has to be in alignment with what you're doing every day. And when I thought about in my life the things that contribute to burnout as someone who enjoys working
Mm.
are things that uh, become obstacles to me doing my job effectively. So
Hmm.
things that impede my ability to successfully take care of patients.
Yeah.
So delays in the operating room, constant difficulties with turning over room or staff shortages or
Mm.
having the resources that you need to really do a great job
Yeah.
in taking care of your patients and those constant frustrations that you run up against. I think those are more impactful in the concept of me in my life of burnout because then I'm fighting these things,
Mm-hmm.
right, that make it difficult for me to do my job.
Hmm.
And so it's not necessarily about how many hours I work at doing the thing that I'm passionate about
Yeah.
doing. It's more so the difficulty in navigating all of these roadblocks in the way
Hmm.
that take away from being able to live out in my purpose and passion.
Wow. So then what I'm hearing from you is really powerful because I think it also it backs the literature and the literature backs what you're saying where it's when we focus on folk who are walking in a mission driven profession where they have a
Yeah.
passion for what they're doing, the biggest um indicators of burnout is when people are lacking the resources they need
Yeah.
to do the job at the level and the effectiveness that they want to actually do it at.
Yeah.
and,
Exactly.
and and so that mismatch of what I'm hearing, and I think there might be some not might be there is some truth to the reality of when we're thinking neurosurgeon, we're thinking of how delicate that whole ecosystem is in terms of just the slightest thing that goes wrong can be just, and again, I'm sure it's true for all surgery, but especially in neurosurgery, there has to be this crossing of T's, dotting of I's, and this attention to detail that I'm curious in other professions, even within the medical field, maybe they're not necessarily given that level of discretion or attention, or not even as much resources, but it just may be like, oh, neurosurgery compared to like for instance, my wife works in orthopedics, but it's uniquely for older patients or geriatric patients. And there's sometimes not necessarily at this hospital, but at another hospital, she was travel nursing. Um, there wasn't always that attention to detail or voice or autonomy given to the nurses to do their job at an effective level. And kind of what I'm hearing from you is the amount of hours y'all work. It seems that this hospital is doing a good job of making sure that y'all have the resources you need to be effective in the way that you want to. So then you can walk out your passion. And like we know for burnout, usually it's this idea of exhaustion, this idea of depersonalization where people kind of mentally check out of their work. Or to your point, low self efficacy, where they feel like they're not walking in their passion, they're not walking in their purpose, and they're not doing it effectively. And so, what have been some of the tips, tricks, whatever you would call it, that you've used to be able to kind of stay centered and grounded in your purpose and in your mission?
Yeah. I think that trying to, along your journey, um, do things that are mission aligned. And, when you are presented with opportunities and, doors will always be in front of you. And uh, you have to say, is this opportunity mission aligned or is it not? You know, you can always pick something up to do good in the world, but just because that opportunity allows you to do good doesn't necessarily mean that opportunity is for you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So it's like you have to have a very you have to be assured of who you are, what you represent, and like how every opportunity that comes your way uh plays into like your strengths.
Yeah.
And if something is good but it's not meant to be like
Hmm.
be something that's aligned with your passion, it
Hmm.
may take you away
Yeah.
from what it is that you're actually meant to do.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Everything might be good, not everything's expedient.
Yeah, and in order to like understand who you are, you have to, for me, I'm very connected to my faith,
Hmm.
right? So I try to stay centered. I try to understand, okay, like, as a man of God, like, is that something that is advancing, the kingdom? Is that
Mm.
something that, am I living a Christ life, like, life
Hmm.
is, what I'm doing, is this about me or is this about, a greater purpose? And
Hmm.
seeking out mentors, not just in your career, but seeking out mentors in your family and your church community, folks who can help you stay centered on reality.
Yeah.
It's easy to not live in reality.
Yeah.
When you're constantly in the hospital and dealing with these sorts of things. So making sure that you stay connected with those folks that say, hey, that might not actually be very healthy what you're doing, or
Yeah.
hey, be careful because you might hit some roadblocks, or hey, I noticed that like your wife is maybe
Hmm.
experiencing this little bit different than you're experiencing it.
Yeah.
Watch out,
Yeah.
and take care of this before it becomes a
Yeah.
problem. And so having those people in your life to help center you, and then having your own connection with God, or your faith
Hmm.
um, background is going to be really important for helping you to sort of kind of stay
Hmm.
in line with what you need to be doing.
Hey, family, I hope you've been loving the conversation so far. Now, you already know at the Inspired House, we got your back. We're here to help you beat burnout. We're here to help you be your best self. Ultimately, we're just trying to help you feel good. But you know what goes a long way in somebody feeling good? It's looking good. And that's why we're really excited for the sponsor of today's episode, Purpose Grooming Lounge, right here in Rochester, New York. The Purpose Grooming Lounge is one of the best barbershops in the Rochester area. And if you're from Rochester, you know this place is no secret. And if you heard of the shop, then you already know about the owner, Jamil Gaines. Mill is one of the best barbers in the city and who I personally trust to keep me clean and tight for every podcast, for every workshop, and for every video we put out on the Inspired House. But if you don't believe me, take his word for it.
Hey, this is Mills, Them People's Barber. If you're looking for a good haircut, good quality professional service, come on down to Purpose Grooming Lounge.
Hey, shout out to Mills and all the barbers at the Purpose Grooming Lounge. Check them out at 6 Atlas Street, Rochester, New York. And if you go in and decide to get a 90s high top fade like me, just tell them the Inspired House sent you. Back to the show.
I love how you break that down because you're really, for us, you're breaking down kind of the inspired house method, this idea of knowing kind of your core 8 values, right? Your how you do mentally, how you do emotionally, how you're doing in terms of relationships, your own personal hobbies, job, spirituality, all of that. And what I'm hearing from you is it's not just talk, but you sound like someone who has invested the time to shore up that core 8, right? We call it our essential 8 within the inspired house. This idea of every person is a house, and every room of the house makes up a part of who they are. And for you, it sounds like you've really taken the time to get your essential 8 aligned. And you talked about this idea of when you have mission and vision, and you when you have mission and vision, you usually comes from a place of having clarity, and clarity comes from knowing who you are. And when you know who you are, you also do a better job of bringing people around you who can speak to that. What has, when I think of folk who might be like younger, who's kind of getting into the field, whether they're getting into surgery or whether they're going into social work or they're just going into finance, this idea of being able to find mentorship, and even the conversations we've had sometimes when I made some decisions, one of our first conversations, you were like, yo, bro, do you got mentorship? you know? Um, but I needed that. And so for someone who might be listening and they're saying, I know I need mentorship, how do I go about finding it? Do you have any advice to offer in that?
Yeah, I would say it can be very intimidating at first, not gonna lie. But what I have found is that people who are successful usually are happy to share their secrets to success.
Tell me more if you don't mind.
Um, if you reach out to someone, right, a lot of people will actually respond. A lot of people who have reached a certain level of success, they're not scared to share what they got because you're not a threat. You're not a competition. If anything, they're excited to have somebody to follow in their footsteps and to carry on what it is that they're doing. So, first and foremost, if you're interested in whatever it is, if you're interested in business, medicine, and you identify some people who are like truly successful, just send them an email, DM them on instant message on LinkedIn, and more times than not, those people will respond. And I think it's a necessary component because people who have found success have realized that they've mastered the art of mentorship in their lives. So they've leaned on mentors, right? And you don't reach a certain level of success without interacting and navigating with other people. And the person who doesn't respond is probably not even the person you want mentoring you anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bar. Yeah.
To keep it honest. So and then you have to recognize that there's layers to mentorship. And so as you start to navigate in different spaces and identify the direction that you're headed, whatever that might be, I tell people that you have to establish what's called a board of directors over your life. So, every major, Fortune 500 company, every public company has some type of board of directors that, has folks from experts in different industries that then guide the work of the CEO. And the CEO reports to the board of directors. It's not that the board of directors is in the trenches doing the work, but somebody might have experience in this particular aspect of the industry or whatever, and guides the ship. And so that CEO doesn't just rely upon one person for help. It's like 10, 15 people. Yeah. And so at minimum in your life, you should have 4 different kinds of mentors to establish at least your bare minimum baseline board of directors. And so the first kind of mentor you need is someone that I call a peer mentor. And so that is someone who is close in age to you or close in journey, maybe one step ahead. So, being in medicine, that like a peer mentor for an undergraduate student would be a medical student.
Mm-hmm.
A peer mentor for a medical student would be a senior medical student or a resident. So someone who's in that close proximity, and you can easily shoot them a text and you can say, hey, I'm dealing with XYZ, or I encountered this situation or this conversation. How did you navigate it? Or, hey, I noticed that you did really well on your MCAT or your STEP or your board exams. What was your method of studying? How did you prepare? How did you navigate this class or this professor? And those are people you can talk to on a daily or a weekly basis. And because you're close in age, it's a non-issue to, you're kind of like friends. Then the next level up would be an early career or a mid-career mentor, right? So if you are a med student, that earlier mid-career would be like an assistant professor, an associate professor. Somebody who is, starting off their career, building, their team, someone who might get you involved in research opportunities, someone who might be able to do some kind of career planning with you. That is not a person that you're texting every day or communicating with every week. That might be somebody that you check in with maybe once a month, right? Or once a quarter. Somebody who is helping you navigate, okay, how am I going to set myself up for success for this summer research? Hey, I've drafted my, my proposal for research. Do you mind just giving me some pointers? Do you mind reviewing it, giving me some pointers, and keeping it moving? They might mentor you in research. They might help you come up with a list of programs to apply to for the match. And then you have like a sort of more of a senior career mentor. And this is not somebody that you interact with on a regular basis. This might be somebody that like you check in with every couple months, maybe once a quarter. And this person may be in some like leadership roles. They have a little bit more pull. You may have done like an away rotation and interacted with them, seen them at a conference, whatever, or spent like a short period of time, like really under their tutelage. And then you keep them updated. You send them a quick email every quarter or every 6 months, say, hey, so-and-so, this is what's happened in my life. I just, I'm so thankful for that opportunity I had to spend with you 2 years ago. I wanted to keep you abreast on like how I'm moving. And, your advice was so valuable, and want to make sure that like that made a difference in my life. And this is the next step headed forward. If you have time, I'd love to connect. If not, just sending you a quick update. And
could
go
I just
ahead.
interrupt just real quick?
Yeah.
Because what you're sharing is so powerful, because I think for a lot of times in a lot of communities, we get hit with this, not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And people have a hard time navigating the who you know.
Yeah.
And like, I hope y'all are listening, because right now he's breaking down game on how to navigate the who you know and how to do it in an effective way. I just had to just make sure I just throw that in there.
For sure. And then that senior level person can perhaps serve as a sponsor, right? And so again, you need people at different stages of the career. So a sponsor may be somebody who sits on an admissions committee, somebody who sits on a committee that reviews grant opportunities or promotion opportunities, or they sit on the committee for promotions for career advancement. And again, that's not a person you're texting. You don't even have to work directly with that person, but they know your work, right? And you've stayed in contact with them. You send them an email once a year or every 6 months. And so when your name comes up for promotion, then that's a sponsor. It means that like they say, hey, oh, Desmond, I know Desmond. Man, Desmond, I've known Desmond for the last 5 years, and he's had a tremendous career progression. You should consider Desmond for this promotion. So that's a person who's going to sponsor you. Okay. So those are your career mentors, and they don't even have to know each other. They don't even have to like each other. They don't even have to know that either one of them is on your board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
They could be in various different institutions. Oftentimes, it's better to have folks who are not at your institution as part of your board of directors. And then you need somebody who's a little bit more personal. So I call this like your spiritual, the spiritual person on your board of directors. So that's a pastor, someone in leadership in your church. That might be, depending on what your faith situation is, it might be somebody in your family. It might be an aunt and uncle, a grandparent, a mom or dad, just somebody who's outside of your career who can help keep you centered. So like that person I was talking about before, that's like, hey, what you're doing is like not healthy or not normal, but you wouldn't know that if you stayed inside your bubble of what it is that you just do and the people who do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's common to them.
Yeah. And so you need that person from the outside that's going to give you that spiritual, that personal advice that will help keep you centered and balanced on on who you truly are, because you're more than just whatever career or goal you're trying to achieve. You're actual individual human being who wants to do good in the world. And so you need to be centered on that as well.
I love how you close that out with the spiritual aspect, but also the last part you said is you're more than just what you do. And what you do is just kind of a vehicle in that aspect. I guess for me, again, I'm just loving everything you're saying, because it's like when we have our coaching meeting later on, y'all, I hope y'all see, like, we're not making this stuff up. This is exactly what we're getting at, this whole board of directors, and how when you have that clarity, you have a better time of being able to put together that board of directors, because you have a better time articulating what you need and want, which then gives your people what I found to be true mentors. They don't like wasting time. And the clearer you can be, or the more upfront you can be, even if you don't know, just owning the fact that you don't know
Yeah.
and you're an open book goes further than faking the funk, right? And so for you, when you're navigating that and considering our audience, if they were to have that kind of critical conversation of like, hey, I'm struggling right now, or like I'm not sure if I'm actually good at what I'm doing, or I'm kind of ready to throw in the towel, or I'm actually dealing with burnout. I'm not getting the resources I need to be effective. Out of those four mentors, who would that conversation be most effective with, would you say?
I'd say first with your peer mentor.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, uh, you don't just one day wake up and be burned out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not a
True.
thing. It's a process that like
True.
happens that allows you to get to that
Mm-hmm.
spot.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're completely oblivious to what's happening into your life, you don't just wake up one day burned out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you should be in the trenches with your peer mentor before that process even takes hold. And your peer mentor will be like, "Hey, what's going on, man?"
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, like those roadblocks that are in your way that prevent you from living out your purpose, you're not the only person who's ever experienced those roadblocks.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your skin color, what you look like, if it's racism, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you're not the only one
Yeah.
who's experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And so your peer mentor, you could say, "Hey, I ran into this roadblock. Have you ever ran into it? And how did you navigate it? And maybe what's some tips for reducing that roadblock stress in my life?"
Hmm. Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those are like the early steps.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's always going to be roadblocks, but how you navigate them and do you have insider trading advice on how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
or are you just struggling at every step of the way?
Okay. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think if I'm hearing you correctly, I think to be able to do that, you have to be able to check in with yourself.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to be able to take a temperature of where you're at. So with that, are there things that you do? Are there morning routines or things that you've applied in your life so that you can get a good temperature of where you're at on any given day?
Yeah. I mean, I think that my routines have significantly changed over time, and it's something I'm actively working on getting back to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I know this that when I am performing at my best, there's some component of physical activity and exercise in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and some component of like prayer and setting like
Mm-hmm.
the tone for the day.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect at it, just
Mm-hmm.
to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Life changes, circumstances change, schedules change, all these sorts of things. But those are the things that I try to implement in my life to like kind of settle myself. But when it comes to specifically to this conversation that we're having about like how do I stay connected to my mentors, is that I recognize that like when there's a roadblock, I reach out. So if there's a scenario or a situation I encounter in the hospital, or when you start out in your career in neurosurgery, there's going to be patient scenarios or things that you've never seen before. You're going to encounter administrative roadblocks, and several times a week, I have multiple people that I'll text,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll say, "Hey, I'm dealing with a patient with this XYZ. Have you ever encountered that before? How did you handle, the surgical decision making, etc." Or, "Hey, I ran into this issue in the operating room where it delayed my ability to operate. Can you help me out? Or what is your advice for the proper way to communicate to individuals to help like eliminate this situation, or at least to like make it slightly better?"
Yeah.
So I'm on the phone or texting my peer mentors
Mm-hmm.
multiple times a week, navigating situations so that I don't just step on landmines.
Yeah.
There's like no need to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
There literally is no need. There are like people who have paved the way for you. You have to lean on them,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't be scared to ask. When you don't lean on people And when you don't reach out to those resources, it doesn't matter where you are on your journey. You could be an undergrad, and it could be an upcoming organic chemistry test, right? I guarantee you that there are at minimum 100 people at your school who took that test last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You are not the first person in the history of the world to take that particular organic chemistry test at your institution. So why in the world would you just show up ill prepared and not knowing what to study, how to study, and how to approach it? You call up the person who took the class last year and said, "Hey, you were in so and so's class, right? Hey, what were the keys to success?
Yeah.
How did you study? What pitfalls did you make? If you did terribly, like how should I avoid what you did?" Right? You can learn from people who don't do it successfully as well.
Yeah.
But like, why would you show up to that test without the insider information to be successful?
I'm hearing a lot right now. A theme that I'm seeing thread throughout is there is just so much value in just practicing communication.
Yeah.
And putting yourself out there. I think a lot of times, especially for younger folk, we tell them like, put yourself out there. And we don't necessarily always define what putting yourself out there means. But you started from the beginning with breaking down the 4 types of mentors, the frequency in which you'll communicate with them, and then applying it in a work setting, applying it in a school setting, and this idea of if you put yourself out there and you communicate, and if you feel like there is a gap in your knowledge, to not just sit there and say, woe is me, because that just shows a sign of not figuring it out, which can be perceived as a weakness. And instead going and just figuring it out, finding someone, making that connection. And then by default, you build your network. And I think there really is, I don't know if the phrase is association or correlation, but there is something to be said about people who are willing to figure things out usually have a bigger network than those who are willing not to. And what you're getting at, I think, is so powerful in there. So I guess kind of as we wrap up, one of my last 2 questions is when we're looking and people are dealing with needing assistance or help or mentorship, let's say for like ethical things, like maybe they're getting a sense that they're being mistreated or whatever like that. As someone who's been in this work and has done this at a very high level, how do you encourage somebody to navigate that? Is that a mentorship conversation? Is that a conversation that's just more directly with the powers that be and you tell your mentor? Like, how would you walk somebody through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is a mentorship conversation, and it harkens back to the advice that I said before, that sometimes it's better to have mentors that aren't even at your place of work or institution, because when these ethical things come up, you're going to want somebody who's independent. So if the only people you set up in your life to be helpful for you are in your organization, right, or directly above you, they may or may not even be the people who are doing this unethical thing to you to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. And so you need to be able to go outside your organization and say, hey, have you dealt with this? How would you deal with this? And help me. Yeah. You know, there are professional organizations. So within neurosurgery, I serve on the executive committee of the American Society of Black Neurosurgeons. Right. And so, you know, if there's a resident that has an issue, right, they can come to the American Society of Black Neurosurgeons to seek guidance from someone who's not part of their institution, who can independently and objectively say, hey, this is the roadmap of how you handle that. And I never condone unethical behavior or poor treatment of individuals. But at the same time, I think that there are a few examples of how we can strive or how we can achieve independent of that. And I'll give 2 examples. Yeah. One is just a worldly example. Another is a biblical example.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay?
For sure. Yeah.
So the worldly example is Jordan. Michael Jordan. I don't know if anybody watched The Last Dance,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that guy was just an absolute beast.
Mhm.
But what stood out to me is that Jordan was not in agreement with the Bulls administration.
Mm-hmm.
And at time, decisions were made that weren't in Jordan's favor.
Mm-hmm.
They were constantly at odds,
Yeah.
right? And in Jordan's mind, Jordan was being treated unethically,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in some weird, crazy, distorted way in his mind, which may or may not work for everybody and could be pathologic in some
Yeah.
some situations.
Yeah.
He was like, the administration's treatment of me has no bearing on me going out there and winning championships. And
Yeah.
a man who was at odds with the administration, the team that he played for, still went out there and won championships.
Hmm.
And if anything, he used it as fuel,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he just made up adversity.
Yeah.
When there was no adversity, he just like fabricated adversity to pump him up,
That motivation.
to motivate him to be the
Mhm.
best.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think about workspaces, right, I'm not always going to be in agreement with my boss.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not always going to be treated right.
Yeah.
I'm guaranteed to at some point face racism, and I've experienced a lot of racism.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's their problem.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I have a Jordan mentality and mindset that I can work for a terrible boss
Mm-hmm.
and still carry out my mission?
Hmm.
And maybe my mission is that I'm the person that brings the light
Yeah. Wow.
in a place of darkness.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the only light in a dark place.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second example is a biblical example, and you
Mhm.
look at the relationship between David and Saul.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man.
And Saul initially had God's blessing,
Mm-hmm.
but because of his disobedience and unfaithfulness, that blessing was taken away from him.
Yeah.
He became a very tormented king and leader,
Mm-hmm.
and tormented and tried to kill David.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
David never fought back.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you're right.
David continued to serve. He continued to follow God. He ran
Mm-hmm.
for a portion of time, but he never fought back. He never tried to kill Saul. He never tried to take the throne in any way other than what God would give it to him as.
Wow. Yeah. That's facts.
And then on the other end, Dave's son came after him. You think of Absalom.
Yeah, bro. Absalom. Dang. Yeah,
And so-
you're right.
And so, here you have a situation that probably David created,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? But now he's got somebody else after his throne.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have been like Saul and been like, I'm protecting my throne. I'm killing this dude. I don't care. He's not going to come after me.
Yeah.
Dave didn't fight back.
Yeah.
He didn't even protect his throne. As the king of Israel, he didn't even protect it.
That's a fact.
He was like, hey, God, I'm the king. You put me here. If you want me to be king, then you'll keep me safe.
Yeah. Let God sort it out. Wow. Wow.
And
Man, that's hard to do.
and he wasn't killed.
Mm-hmm.
God preserved him,
Yeah.
and he continued to reign.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to protect himself in any form or fashion.
Wow.
And so arrows will be thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to do unethical things around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not your concern.
Mm-hmm.
You are the light in a place of darkness. And every time something is thrown at you is just an opportunity in my mind for God to show himself great, despite.
I love that. And again, that what I'm hearing is this is coming from somebody who's taken the time to understand who they are, understand their role and their path in this world, right? To clearly have an understanding of what their faith looks like, And so all those things inform and help you to be able to perform in that capacity. And again, it's really interesting because what the way you're talking, it reminds me of when it comes to stuff like football or wrestling or whatever else. It's usually not all the fancy gimmicks and doing this and doing that. It's getting the first principles down.
Yeah.
And just getting that just where you get it down, so like where it's not that you do it so many times, where you have a couple times where you just get it right, but you get it down so much that you can never get it wrong. And what I'm hearing from you is someone who's kind of taking the time to get these first principles. Do you keep the main thing is what my dad used to say, and let that kind of carry you through. And so I appreciate that. But before we finish out, any just kind of message you want to give to the audience, anything you want to tell the people directly?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think we've covered so much, but the biggest thing for me is stay grounded in your faith and who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Stay curious.
Mm-hmm.
Question everything.
Mm-hmm.
Learn as much as you can from everybody. Read every book you can on whatever it is you want to do. Try to get access to whoever you can. Ask them every question that you can, and don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about how smart you are. It's about being grounded in, like you said, in those principles, being guided by them, and never giving up.
I love that. Yo, Dr. Paul, appreciate you, family.
Hey, it's been
family.
an honor.
Yeah, for sure. Family, we will see y'all in the next episode. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you soon.